Hey, welcome everybody to Wicked Wednesday. I am so glad to be here with you, and thank you for being with us for the premiere on Wednesday for Bridging the Seen and Unseen. I am your host. I am Shane McLain. It is great to be here with you all, and I hope tonight is as awesome as all the other ones. And I hope everybody's had a good week. It's been a long while, and I'm glad to be back. I'm really glad to be back. Um, but you guys stay tuned. We got some good stuff coming up. Okay, so tonight, about a month ago, I tried to get this team, to come on, to let's have a good conversation about who they are, what they're about, everything. And it kind of fell through on my part, not on their part, because they were ready. I wasn't ready. But the thing is, I'm ready now, and let's bring them on. Long Island Paranormal.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, buddy?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Let me explain. This show is very organic. It's not like I'm gonna sit there and like grill or nothing like that. It's like you and I are sitting on the couch and we're just kind of having a conversation. And I've had a lot of success behind this. I'm one of the OGs on this network. I was here for since almost the beginning. So I mean, that's what I plan on having with you tonight. So Mike, let's just start out. Let's just start out by telling everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your team, just things you got going on.
So I'm Michael Carnuto. I'm the founder of Long Island Paranormal Investigators. I created the group in March of 2003, 23 years ago. Kind of started out as a dare. We were all just friends playing hockey, and we started to talk about all the different urban legends of Long Island. And one of the abandoned psych centers, Kings Park Psych Center, came up, and I dared two of my friends to go inside, and they're like, "Hell's yeah, let's do it." So we got like a crappy video camera, remember 23 years ago, tape
Oh
and
yeah,
everything, So
yeah.
we had little crappy walkies, and they went in there, and they were in there for about an hour and 45 minutes, and towards the end, they were in like a sub-level basement. They heard a loud bang sound. The camera shut off, freaked them out, and they ran out. And that intrigued me and the co-founder, Rob Levine. So we started to look up all the different sites of Long Island, and we found out that they sell some equipment that goes along with some of the paranormal theories. So we bought some stuff, and our goal was to kind of investigate these sites to see if what people were experiencing is really occurring, or is there a logical explanation? So we started to investigate, and we started to come up with evidence that we couldn't explain. We've been doing it ever since.
So I mean, do you guys continue to go back to that area?
Yeah, so we it's so crazy looking back, 23 years ago. We thought it was a very natural thing to document everything. So like we started field reports since day one, since that night that they went into building 93 at Kings Park Psych Center. We wrote out a field report for it. The video camera logged everything in there, and it was just kind of like a natural thing to do. We've read some like paranormal 101 books, and they had like these blank field report guides, and we kind of tweaked it and created our own. And we started to log all the equipment that we used on an investigation, all the readings that we've had, whether it was something that would be normal or not, we still logged it. So we have tons of data, and some of those sites we still go back to this day. The more data you have from a location, the more you're able to tell about it. You could start to look for patterns and
Yeah.
why things might be happening or not, so.
That's what I was about to say. I'm about to say for the patterns and everything. I mean, have you guys seen like major differences in like EMF, any spikes, anything like that? I mean, does it get higher, lower? Like, what response have you gotten from it using that equipment?
So we've actually, there's a couple of locations that we've investigated. We probably been there over like 30 times where we figured out patterns, where if there is high EMF, we try to figure out why. Like, are there any power lines in the area? What
Power
would be,
line. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
in like the middle of the woods, and then that's why we log it, because if we get a hit today, but we go back, a week from now and it's quiet, why did that first one happen? So that's what we log all that stuff. So we definitely have gotten some interesting stuff off of the different types of equipment that we do use. And some of it we're able to tell some patterns, which is really cool. It takes a lot of time to do that, but once you start getting out there and investigating constantly, you start to see some patterns in it, which is really cool.
So what have you found out there? Like as far as like spirit wise and things like that, like what all of you guys communicated with out there?
I would say, I mean, for the most part, intelligent. That seems to be the bulk of what we're capturing out here. I feel like there have been probably about 2 locations we've investigated. I hate using the term. I don't like to use it, too often, but demonic wise on that type of level. 2 locations seem to be at that more negative type of activity. I would say that's probably the majority. Residual wise, we do travel a lot. So Gettysburg is one of our like second homes. And
Yeah.
I would say some of the stuff we captured there have been intelligent, and some residual stuff as well.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody go to Gettysburg and then come back with something.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, we treat Gettysburg very differently than probably most out there, because everyone's like, "Hey, I'm going to go investigate Gettysburg," and I look at that and I'm like, "Have you ever been there?" Because it's miles long. So what we did was we actually broke up Gettysburg into monuments. So like Devil's Den would be one, but there might be like, there's a monument called like Second Maryland. That's another site completely separate. So we broke it up by all different sections, where right now I think we have like 115 locations at Gettysburg. So, because if we do capture evidence and somebody's like, where did you capture that? We know exactly where that happened. And it pinpoints out where the hot spots are on the battlefield at what times of years. So we're collecting all that data now. Yeah, it's a lot. So
I bet you guys get some good video evidence.
we've captured video's tough, believe it or not.
I know.
Say,
it's tough for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, even like our guests and homeowners, where I tell them, like, audio evidence we capture 1 in probably every 3 investigations. We're getting some decent EVPs. Photography is like 1 in every like maybe 3 to 5,000 photos. And I always say video, I have a better chance of winning lotto than capturing a ghost on video. Like, that's the reality of it. It's so rare. Not that it can't happen, but it's not what, like, if you go on YouTube right now and you type in ghost video, thousands of them are going to pop up. And
yeah, I know.
Are they real? Are they fake? So that's the reality of it. But we've captured some really cool photography evidence at Gettysburg in the past, which is pretty wild. So
I heard you say residential and stuff like that. That's what I mainly work with. I'm a Knights Templar, and I specialize in spiritual warfare, demonology, and exorcism ministries. Okay. So I started this podcast, this Bridging the Seen and Unseen, to bridge the gap between paranormal and clergy. There was a huge gap. There was a huge gap there. And, we wanted to make ourselves available, not only for clients, but for teams also. We are willing to try. We are willing to help teams. We are willing to go. We are ordained. It's a big thing, especially like when you're doing residentials and stuff like that. I've seen too many times to where, you get a paranormal team go in there and, they find evidence, they think evidence right there, and they do nothing to help the client. And it gets worse. And then people like us have to come in and clean up.
Yep.
And I mean, we don't mind that, but I really wish that they would think about that before they even step into it. You know, because residential is totally different than regular locations. Man, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with fear, you're dealing with people that are genuinely scared. And then you get paranormal teams that go in there and they tell them, "Oh, you've got a demon," and stuff like that. Man, let me tell you something, Bill. I've worked hundreds of cases, man. And a demonic oppression or possession might take up 1% of what we do. It's just not. It's just not there, you know. And like my wife will tell you. My wife will say, you know, if I ever come forward and say this person needs an exorcism, you better believe they need an exorcism.
Yep.
Because I try to veer people from that.
Mm-hmm.
I use exorcism as a last resort. I don't shun from it. I will run to it if it's a case that we need to take. But if there's no indefinite proof and there's no psychological evaluations, there's no physical evaluations, there's no releases, you know, there's no questionnaires or anything like that, there's no sense in even messing with it, because we're not a one and done kind of team, you know. Right. We go in and man, just the psychological evaluation themselves could take 6 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100% with that approach. Like you absolutely have to. You have to weed out all other possibilities before you jump into it. I feel like with this field, that doesn't happen enough, to be honest with you. It's rare, believe it or not, you know.
That's what we're here for.
It's crazy because it's like, how is that? Like, that's everyone's go-to. And I'm like, what?
Yep.
You know,
Mike, that's exactly what we're here for. That's exactly what we're here for. You know, not only that, but we go in and we have found that there are teams that just kind of jump right into the investigation. They don't know anything about grounding. They don't know anything about protection. We use a very theological method. I use frankincense. I don't use sage because I'm not Indian. I was told by a chief that if you don't have Indian blood in you, that sage is not going to work effectively. Told me that to my face. So I've never used it, and I always use frankincense, and, you know, and I've got a way of grounding, clearing, cleansing, you know, doing things like that can not only help teams, but helps families and helps other people stay safe while they're doing the investigation. And I think that's I think it's important.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and it's also important, like, if you are a team out there that is investigating, have that network of people, like, you know, like my team, like I would never throw them into a demonic case, like ever. Like they're not even close to. I have a lot of new people that have only been in the field for like 3 or 4 years. And I'm like,
just call me.
You may think you have a lot of experience, but that's nothing compared to what is coming, you know. So we have a lot of people where if we do a case and it happens to be where we might think it is, we're not going to just jump into it. You know, we're going to definitely get the assistance that we need. We also have been starting to, I think about a year ago, we started to work with therapists, something I got from a convention I sat in on from Ryan Buell gave this whole thing with bringing therapists into the paranormal, where we can come in, you know, we can go and investigate and we could find stuff, whatever it is, we can go in and clear it. That's great. But we did our part, but the trauma is still there from the client.
Yep.
It may not be there anymore, but from what they had to deal with for however long they were dealing with it, you know, and that's why we have like 2 therapists that we've been talking to, where we're trying to bring them on board, where they could also sit with the client and kind of help them out in that aspect, which is
smart. That's smart to have them there. That's smart. You know, just like us, you know, when we go in, if we have if we have anything beyond an oppression case, because there's stages to it.
Of
There's
course.
stages, there's encroachment, manifestation, infestation, oppression, possession, and we've even found a rise in the past 5 years that goes beyond possession called obsession.
Mm.
And what it is they got something during the possession that their mind, their soul, their body wasn't used to, that they want, and they want that back. And then, it's biblical, man, that if a demon leaves you and you get it back, it not only comes back, but it brings 7 times worse than what it was. So, I mean, there's nothing good that can come out of it. So having a therapist there, especially for the obsession part of it, could be vital, because that can be a meaning between life and death, really, for someone that's dealing with that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. And like, with house investigations, we've grown a lot since over the years. I think our first one we ever did was back in 2005. You're going in as amateurs, and then you kind of learn, through the years,
Yeah.
going through different lectures, talking to different teams, developing different skills, and you kind of just put it all together. When we set out for our case management, like we kind of weed out a lot of stuff we have a questionnaire that we have them fill out. It's like 50 questions just to start.
Me too.
To see if, like, are you serious? Because we're not just entertainment for that. Like, you went, you saw a show, you saw a movie, and it's like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's have a paranormal team come in and just like do their thing and we'll watch. No, that's not what we're here for,
So, with Long Island like that, like what, I heard you say that there's a lot of lores that go on around there. What are some things that happen around the Long Island area that have caused this paranormal exploration that you guys are on and things like that? What is it? What like could you tell us about some of the things that go on?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of history here on Long Island. I mean, starting off with pretty much all of Long Island at one point was all Native American. I mean, I grew up in Ronkonkoma, which is not far from Lake Ronkonkoma, which was named after the.
Well, listen to the name.
There.
Listen to the name.
Exactly. I graduated from Sachem High School. So it's like everything is named after it. I remember when I was a kid, I used to find arrowheads in my backyard. Like that's how crazy it is. So I think that's a huge aspect, and then the developing. I mean, we are so overdeveloped here on Long Island where you're digging stuff up, and normally if you hit on something, you're supposed to stop and contact authorities or whatever. I can tell you right now here, they do not. They'll dig up whatever and they'll just brush it aside. They don't care. So I'm sure that stirs up a lot of energy. Then we have, I mean, your classic cases. We have Amityville Horror House that happened here, whether people believe it or not, still something that occurred. The Poltergeist movie, that's based on a house in Seaford, Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that. So we have that. We have an axe murder out east. So we have everything here. And then you have all the different psych centers. We had at one point there was 4 major psych centers. We had Kings Park Psych Center, Pilgrim Psych Center, CI Psych Center, and Edgewood. So I'm sure, like, all that type of activity, just all that kind of stuff. We investigate a lot of like county parks. We'll do some cemeteries here and there. I find that, everyone thinks the cemetery, it's probably the craziest haunted place. And they're really not. Like, and I always tell people, when I pass away, if I'm able to come back and I can go anywhere,
not staying at the cemetery.
A grave, right? So
right.
But I mean, we have a lot of stuff, and then we have the whole thing with like Camp Hero, which is all based. If you watch Stranger Things, that's all based off of Camp Hero and Brookhaven National Labs. So
we have
all that kind of stuff going on here. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. So, and then you have all the stuff from the American Revolution, called perspiring. After the Revolutionary War, Washington did his tour of Long Island here, stopped at a whole bunch of different spots. So, and these are all different areas that we investigate. And, not every time we investigate, we capture evidence. I personally don't want to. I feel like if you go out to the same spot every single time and you're consistently capturing something, is it more of a natural thing? Because at that point, if it's happening all the time, then it's kind of leads to more of the normal aspect than paranormal. That's how I look at it. So, I remember there was a place we investigated, Sancta Coast Manor. Washington actually stayed there overnight after his tour of Long Island. And we investigated there, and we took a little break. We were doing other locations. And like 3 years later, we ended up going back. And we go there, and like all of our equipment was going off, and everyone was like excited. I was like, holy crap. I'm like, what is this? And so we told the team we're going to go back again a week later, and everyone's like, oh, I hope we capture stuff. And I'm like, I hope we don't, because, did they put a radio tower up in the area in the past 3 years that affected everything that we just didn't know about, So we go back a week later, and sure enough, caught nothing. And I'm like, it makes that other night so much more credible that all that stuff was going off. If it was a radio tower, it would have been the same occurrence.
It would have been the same thing that you did before. It would have been, yeah, you're exactly right. Do you guys deal with ley lines?
We've looked into it a little bit. Yeah,
I mean,
do believe in it.
With the power lines and things like that, because that's real big with EMF and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, sure. We also track something called on our field reports. We call it Ghost Weather Station. It used to be like this downloadable thing many years ago, where it gave you the moon phase for the night, the geomagnetic field and solar activity, and then your basic weather report. So we've been tracking all this stuff years ago, and we just kept it going. The app itself, burnt out after many years, but now we just go on, I think it's NOAA.com, and we get all the information from there, each investigation. So we track that as well, because if the geomagnetic field seems to be high and all of a sudden you're getting high EMF, is that a correlation? So we track all that stuff as well.
Do you have particular people that work? Okay, you take the EMF side, tell me if there's any differences, things like that. Do you have different people that are over those areas?
So for us, when we do an investigation, depending on how many members we have for the night, because we go out every week. So
every week.
Every week. Yeah. We are out every week. Every Thursday night, we go out and investigate an urban legend. And a lot of times it's to get data to see, with these places. And also that's our training for our team members. So when we do a house investigation, they know what they're using ahead of time. And it kind of builds up that level of kind of getting used to being in the dark and getting used to using equipment and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we go out every week. And the way we do it is, if we're at a location, we might have, say, 10 of us, we'll break up into 3 or 4 different groups. And each group has like a set of equipment, all kind of the same stuff. So each group will have like a Geiger counter, an EMF meter, a thermometer, some type of camera, and some type of audio recorder. And each team kind of goes off. We branch out at the site. So, we covering the whole area as well. And then we see if there's any differences and stuff like that.
Right. Is there any equipment that you don't use?
We test everything. There's stuff I hate. I think a lot of the stuff today is
manipulated.
Yeah, it sucks. It's just, I don't know. That's my personal opinion. I think that, if I always see stuff pop
like that
up on
EMP
social
pump.
media. Oh yeah. I mean, it could, if it's used the right way, like I get the idea behind it, but if you're using an EMF meter next to it, it kind of defeats the entire purpose.
Exactly.
So like something we created, I actually created a device because, like, I used to hear a lot of people go out, they'll have like a video camera fully charged, and within 5 minutes it's dead. And the theory is that the spirit, ghost, whatever you want to call it, when it's manifesting, it needs energy, it's draining the battery. But there's never a way to check that, right? So what I did was I created a meter. It's a voltage meter. Reads 0 to 15 volts. Plug a 9-volt battery in it, turn it on. It should read 9 volts. That's it. It does nothing more and nothing less. So if we're out in the field and all of a sudden, if that's reading 9 volts and the needle just drops, I can't explain that. What's the draw? What pulled that energy off of that?
It's not in the camera though, right?
Nope. Nope. It's a separate device. I just created it completely separate from a camera. It's an analog meter, not digital. So I can't explain that, and we tried to talk to people. We bring it to conventions and people are like, it's all right. Because it doesn't have flashing lights on it. Can't be manipulated, One of my favorite tools is a Geiger counter. People are like, use Geiger counters? Why? And I'm like, because the theory is that when a ghost manifests, it gives off radiation. I didn't create the theory. I'm just testing it. But when you're out in the field and you get hits on it that you shouldn't, I can't explain that, So... But yeah,
I think it's amazing. I talked to so many people from all over the country, and I think everybody's got their own way, of doing things. And one thing that I'm really exhausted of, in the paranormal field, is that people think that their way of doing things is the best way. And then it creates this station drama that just kind of goes from one to the other. And next thing you know, your whole feed is just blown up by drama. Yeah. And I'm the founder of Outer Realms Paranormal. We have an in-house paranormal team that we use with our team, that we actually go out and do the investigations. After we do the investigations, we do the identifying, and then we do the clearing, the cleansing, the blessing, whatever we have to do there. We kind of do it all, and so I leave that page to promote other teams. But once I start seeing this stuff that's residual, like where people are just coming and downing other people and like doxing people, I can't stand how childish some of these people have gotten in this field. And we're all here for the same thing. We all want to find answers. We all want to do our thing. We all want to help people. And how are we going to help people when we can't even help ourselves as a unit, like a paranormal unit? We should be working together trying to help things.
And that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's cool that everyone kind of has their own niche and way to do it. I think that's awesome. I think there are right ways and wrong ways to do it. And a lot of people will disagree with me, and I don't care. I'm one that, you can't take out an ITC device every single investigation and be like, it's haunted because of that. Right. I'm sorry, the PSP7 Spirit Box, the S Box, the Echo Box, and all these friggin' phone apps is not going to tell you a place is haunted, because 9 out of 10 times you're guaranteed to. I could turn on a PSP7 right now and capture evidence.
Right.
It doesn't mean this place is haunted. I just feel like too with a lot of these devices today, the REM pods, the K2 meters, like they're good tools to use if used correctly. If you have your cell phone on, I'm sorry, but it's not going to help your investigation.
Or a two-way radio.
Know what sets your stuff off. Like, that's something that we do, is when we get a piece of equipment, we try to test it and trigger it. What sets this device off? Do radios set it off? Yes, it does. Okay, how far do I have to be? Do cell phone signals set it off? We found out that when we radio each other on our walkie-talkies, our motion sensors go off. Who would have ever thought a radio frequency would set a motion sensor off? But now that we know that, if we're radioing, we jump in front of a camera, whether it be a DVR camera or body cam, and we hold up the radio and point at it. So we know if a motion sensor goes off at that time, that's what it was from.
Mike, I'm old school too, man. I'm 48 years old. I'm old school, man. I used to use red Solo cups.
Yeah.
Just red Solo cups. And I used to have ping pong balls. And I'd rub the ping pong balls against my bald head that I used to have, and I'd set it down. And if something was around there, then the ball would shoot to that side.
Right.
And that would kind of give us an idea, but people don't think like that anymore. They think that all these gadgets are going to be the forever wherewithal to explaining the paranormal. Well, they haven't done it yet.
They haven't. And that's the thing too. Like, everyone forgets that it's all theory. Nothing's proven.
It is. There's no scientific proof.
Yeah, and I tell everyone, it's nice that everyone uses all the equipment, but where's your documentation?
Right.
We document everything. So if somebody asks us, what do you truly think about EMF? I could sit there and pull out 1,000 field reports and tell you, okay, this is what we caught on this specific meter, not just one EMF meter. If we use a K2 meter digital EMF and the MEL, all three of those are listed in a field report with different readings. Like, we log everything down to pinpoint out exactly.
That's smart.
So it's like super important, because we're testing the theory, see if that theory does exist. Is there any truth behind it? And that's why we do that. When we use like a digital camera, we don't just use digital. We use digital. We'll use black and white. We'll use infrared, full spectrum, IR, UV. We use it all, and to see which one's best to use. We have no idea. Everything's theory based. So I hate when people speak in like absolutes where it's like, oh, this is definitely a ghost. I'm like, I don't see nothing.
I know.
So I
don't get it either. I don't get how somebody can just say that. Now I've been in situations, like even in residentials, to where I've had some things that I definitely could not explain. I've had the footsteps, I've had the knocking, I've even had to where I've had cat balls shoot down the hallway.
Right.
So I mean, like, and we level out the floor. We go in there before we put any of the equipment there. We level out the floor. We check everything in that house. And I think it's smart to do that because, man, like, you can. My very first rule in any investigation is debunk everything obvious first.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
And if you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for failure.
100%. 100%. Like, when we do a house investigation, the first part of it is our case management team sits with the client and goes through pretty much the same questions they already filled out to see if there's any variations. And then while they're doing that, we have somebody walking around with a digital EMF meter in each room to get base readings and see if there's anything high, because high EMF has certain effects. We also use a carbon monoxide detector. Now, a lot of people think, like, why would you use that? It has nothing to do with paranormal. You're right, it doesn't. It doesn't detect ghosts. It detects carbon monoxide, because low levels of carbon monoxide can affect the human mind to have hallucinations and see things that aren't really there without having those trauma effects, So we log all that data. We have, charts that we go through, checking everything off, and then we do inspection at a house. Like, we actually walk through the house and check, are there any electrical cables that are loose or faulty wiring, Romex cable, mold, mildew, where the chemicals are stored. Like, we go through everything, I mean, we'll even go through, if I'm in the bathroom, I'm opening up that medicine cabinet and snapping a picture. Are you lying to me when asking you, what types of meds are you on? be honest. Like, everything's confidential. I'm not going to sit here and tell the public, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
like, I can't help you if you're not honest with me, you know. Like,
Right.
and that's the key. And I think a lot of people feel like they're automatically like, if some, like, we had a client years ago that was schizophrenia, and
I just
they
had one.
tried to,
I just had one 2 days ago.
yeah, it's tough.
And it was Mike. It was probably one of the worst I've ever seen in my whole life. This woman was having a conversation with herself with somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, it was.
And those are tough cases, because it's like the woman actually tried to go to her local church. They turned her away automatically. And I understand, like, a lot of people are like, oh, that's screwed up. And I'm like, I get it from their aspect, you know, like, they're automatically gonna be like, that's what it is, you know. So we went in and we investigated, and I literally sat with this woman for like 4 hours, and she was just happy that we actually sat there. We listened to her stories, and that was it. And we didn't find anything. Everything was fine. Went back, did the reveal, and we asked if anything else was going on since we left. And she's like, no, everything's been great. All she did was want to sit down with somebody that believed her, you know, and that's all I did. And that's what helped her. Great. You know,
That's
great.
yeah. I mean, you can't ask for better than that. I had a case. To where there was a lady and her son, and she had like 2 or 3 paranormal teams coming there, and every single one of them told her that she's dealing with a demonic presence there. And so she was scared. She was scared about going home. She was scared about the safety for her kid. I mean, it just made an unraveling in the home. Like, you can tell, you know, just the friction that was in the house between the kid, the mom, you know, I mean, and it was, and, you know, during our interview, you know, we're sitting there talking, and she kept, I kept hearing her say, my late husband. And I'm like, your late husband, you mind if I ask you a few things about that? You know, how late of a husband do you have? And she said, about 6, 7 months ago, he left out the garage, was on a motorcycle, and he came out, was going to the store, and he was going to come right back, and he got T-boned. It killed him. And the thing is this woman was like, she was having coffee cups slide across the table. She had cabinets that she would get up and all her cabinets would be open, you know, and things like that. And for these teams to go in there and say, because a coffee cup moved across the table, and then you've got cabinet doors open, that's a demonic presence. Let me tell you something, man. You better hope you never run into a real demonic presence. Because when you do, you're going to find that coffee cup. You're going to wish you saw that coffee cup. You're going to wish you saw those cabinet doors open. Well, I did my homework on it, and I went into their marriage, things like that, you know, and I asked her, and I said, well, tell me a little bit about her. Oh, he was great. You know, I mean, and you could tell she missed him. You know, she had a deep love for him, you know, and things like that. And like, when he was living, she would go into the kitchen and she would be cleaning the kitchen. And he would go behind her and he would open up the cabinets. He would mess with her.
Yep.
And so I started thinking, I'm like, and I apologized to that woman. And I said, you know, these teams had no business, you know, coming in here, because we did the investigation and we got his name. We got why he's there. He said that he stays there. He watches after her. He makes sure You know, he even came through and said that he watches his kid get up in the morning. You know, so I mean, it was just a very interesting time. But that whole demonic thing was debunked because I was available to take the time to get personal with that woman. And I found out, and then she found out that it wasn't a demon, that it wasn't a poltergeist, that it was her husband letting her know that he's still there. And she's still there to this day.
Yep.
And she doesn't have any of those kind of worries. She didn't want him gone. Like we could have got him to move on.
Right.
But the problem is like a lot of people will regret doing that, especially with a husband like that.
Right.
You know, and if she said, you know, if that's all he's gonna do, you know, it bothered her that we could communicate with him,
Right.
but she couldn't. And I'm like, well, ma'am, he is communicating with you. You know, when you see the coffee cup go to you, you see the cabinets open, that's him communicating with you. That's him letting you know right there that he's there with you.
Yeah.
And ever since then, she's been great. And, you know, and that's what I was talking about with these teams.
Yep.
You know, you got these teams that want to go in and just occupy their YouTube channels and stuff like that and do nothing to help nothing to help the client. And I refuse to be that kind of person.
Yep. I agree. I absolutely agree. Even though we investigate, like I said, every week, and these are just like urban legend, outdoor stuff, we don't put it on social media. Like we had a segment years ago when we were like,
you don't
really
put it
active. No.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not doing it for the public. I'm doing it for
You're doing it for y'all.
Public record, but like I'm doing it to get data. That's my focus point, is to get data. I can care less about Instagram. I don't care about any of that stuff. We had a segment years ago on YouTube where we filmed like 10 episodes, and it was called Real Ghost Hunting with Long Island Paranormal Investigating. We wanted to show people raw, unedited, uncut. This is what an investigation really is. It's boring half the time. Like it's not what you see on TV. Like it's not over edited, and you know, it's not like that. This is really what happens, you know, and we want to show people that. But otherwise, I don't allow phones to be on. Like when we investigate, phones either turned off or on airplane mode. Do not record on a phone. Like we don't allow it. Like I don't want that stuff. I don't care about Instagram. It doesn't. If people want to ask us for our data, I'll give you the field reports. You can see those.
You don't want to find your thing on YouTube or nothing like that. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
You can tell us about it because it's a dime a dozen to it. It's for what? For people to either rip it apart or repost it, or I don't care. I'm not in the field for that purpose, you know. Like I'm in it for the research aspect. I'm in it to get the word out to the public that this stuff is real. It really does happen, and there's help. People can actually help, and you can freely talk about it without being shunned and, you know, talked down to, or you know, whatever it is years ago. You know, I feel like with the TV shows, like it helped in the aspect of making the paranormal more aware. But then again, it also gave everyone the option to go do this and not really research themselves on what they're doing before jumping in.
And they also think they can do it in that short amount of time too, and it never does. You know, you'll go on an investigation for 8 hours and you might get an hour's worth of coverage.
Yep. So
you know, so I mean, I don't agree with the whole YouTube thing. You know, I stopped, you know, with the clickbaits and stuff like that because everything's a demon, man. And like I said, man, like until you've seen a demon, like there's The very first time I ever saw a demon was in a church. In a church.
Crazy. Wow.
The guy was behind me and he didn't say nothing. We didn't know his name. Nobody knew his name. Nothing. He's standing behind us. We stood up. They were about to start the worship. As soon as the worship came on, like the holy music came on, and all of a sudden, this guy gets thrown 10, 12 feet against the wall. The chair broke that he was in. His body started contorting. I heard his bones popping. I heard his ribs popping. I saw his eyes change completely black. He was hissing. He was speaking different languages, and I understand some Aramaic, you know, and some really old, because I've studied theology for 30 plus years. So I mean, I understand some of this stuff, and he was speaking some things that there's no way that an average person would have done it. And not only that, but it was coming through at the same time.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It was coming through, and to try to hold this person down, it was almost impossible.
I'm sure.
So I mean, you can't put. You can't say, oh, a coffee cup or cabinets opening is any comparison to that. Because it's not that. You know, and I wish people would stop, you know, and that's one of my big things, man. I try to veer people away from the D word. I try to veer people unless they meet the qualifications that will enable somebody like me or my crew to really come in and do, you know, a psychological exam. Like I have 100 question questionnaire or 150 questionnaire that I do. I have a release that's signed by the person that we are able to see all their medical things and things like that, because we're you know, we don't want to be held liable if they have a mental health issue. So then we have then we bring in then once we do, we contact the right people, and you know, we get a psychological exam ongoing. We make sure that the person is mentally stable enough in that aspect to be able to go through it. Then we bring in the doctor to make sure that the heart rate, you know, everything's working fine. You know, we do our homework before we do it. And I think that's very important in dealing with this stuff.
100%. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Especially on like cases like that. It's a whole nother level. You know, I don't think people realize it. Like, you know, and I don't know. I think people dabble too much in that dark stuff too, and I think that's why there's also a rise in that type of activity where it's, you know, I mean, even I've gone to Salem recently, and I'm just like, I won't even walk into some of those stores. I'm just like, that's just, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, like, I don't know.
We call that encroachment. We call that encroachment. If you look up like the true definition of encroachment, a lot of it has to do with, you know, inviting that kind of spirit. Mm-hmm. You know, inviting that kind of presence without even knowing what you're doing.
Right. Yep.
You know, or playing with the Ouija board, or, you know, conjuring things, you know, things like that. You know, just, I mean, there's so many areas that are dark in that field that you don't, I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't, you know, why would you want to take a chance? Like, I just watched a thing to where a guy, he moved in with this guy and this girl, and they were having like this little triangle thing going on, and they did the Ouija board, and the guy summoned Zozo, and man, Zozo has been known to really not only wreak havoc in your family, but kill people in your family. And I don't see, and that's just something that, I mean, like the encroachment deal, you invite that and then you want to complain about
Right.
what goes on after the fact.
Yeah.
You did it.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike, let me ask you this. We got a few minutes there. What is your favorite memory? As far as investigating the area, what it was, everything like that, that is just something that you'll never forget.
There's a lot.
Well, I know you've got that one.
I got one that's it's not what most people think. It was a house investigation, believe it or not, and I'll never forget this case. We were called in. It was a mother, father, and child, and they called us in, and the son would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, crying, saying there's a monster in his room, and they had nowhere to turn, so they called us, and we go in and we do an investigation. And I'll never forget, in the middle of the investigation, one of my teammates calls me up and like, "Hey, you got to come up here to the son's room." I'm like, "Okay." And that teammate was using a compass, and they put it over the bed, and the needle starts spinning.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, go grab a digital EMF meter. So we
There's
hit
a portal right there. There's a portal right there.
Actually, this was scientific. We actually figured out what the problem was. So we hit the EMF and it maxes out. And I'm like, so we noticed there was a drawer underneath the child's bed. So we pull it out, and there was a Star Wars like lightsaber, like a kid's toy. For some reason, it was maxing off the charts of EMF. So we're like, okay, put it back. We finish our investigation, and we tell the client, listen, we're going to go back. We're going to analyze all the data. And we told them something we found was that the toy underneath the child's bed was giving off high EMF. We told them all the different effects. Try to remove that, put it somewhere else in the room, and see if what happens. We'll come back in like a week and a half, do the reveal, and we'll talk and we'll figure it out. So we go back about 2 weeks later, didn't find anything. Everything was normal. And we asked the client, how is your son? She said, ever since we removed that toy, he's been sleeping in his bed every night, no problems. Case closed, problem solved. The family was happy, and it put that mind at ease. I'm in the field to help people. I really don't care about the evidence. I really don't. We were able to help that client when no one else could. They had nowhere else to turn, and we were the ones to be able to do that. And that's one of my favorite cases, to be honest with you. I'll never forget it. Yeah, I mean, it's like, when you have a case like that, all of your hard work and all of your energy that you put into it, it's like, all right, for that one, it was worth it.
Yep. My wife and I always do investigations together. My wife is a healer. She goes with me on all of them, and we were on a show called My Haunted Hometown.
Okay.
We were on season 2, episode 2, and we told the producers that we didn't want some big segment with us. We wanted it to be about it was one of my cases. It was one of my clients that we did. And we helped this. I mean, this guy, to this day, he's still doing extremely well. Like, he has no issues or anything, but like at the end of it, you see me going around, and I'm doing the holy water on the windows, closing all entryways, doorways, portals, walls, things of that nature.
We lost Shane there for a sec. I wonder what happened. Can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, we lost Shane. Here he comes back.
It likes to give me a timeout for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what we like to do that. So I mean, if you get a chance, watch my haunted hometown season 2, episode 2, and you'll see my wife and I at the very end of it. It's a Bluffton, South Carolina case, but it was such a good one because not only were we able to identify who it was, but the person or the guy that died on the railroad track in the 70s, he was a 28-year-old man, and he was there with 7 other people, and a gas leak came and blew up. So he died instantly, lost his wife, kids, everything like that. So this guy was living vicariously through my client. So I found a picture of this guy, found his name, everything, Franklin Henry. I've got a picture of him to this day. And I took him and I put his picture next to my client, and they look alike. It was very interesting, man.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Mike, won't you go ahead and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you, and maybe something you got going or coming up here soon.
Sure. So, best way to get in touch with us would be our website, www.liparanormalinvestigators.com. If you go on our front page, you can email any of us. We also have all of our social media right on the front page. You can contact us through there as well. I'd say the next thing we have coming up, I'm actually going to Gettysburg in 2 weeks, taking a trip there by myself. I'll probably do a little bit of investigating, but more of just like a relaxing thing for myself. And then we're actually doing a private investigation at Penhurst Asylum at the end of July. Yeah, so it'd be our 3rd time going there. So we'll see, what happens there. We got access to a couple of extra buildings. So yeah, so we try to do like a big trip once a year. Last year we did Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. That was our 2nd time being there. So
yeah,
we'll see what we got. You never know.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Mike, thank you so much for coming on, man. You've been an awesome guest. I told you it's a very organic conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, you've been awesome. Bianca and them were right. They told me, they said he should really be on your show, and I wanted to really, really get you on there, but I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on and spending some time with us. And you take care, okay?
Yes, you too. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
All right. Be good.
Well, that's Mike, guys. That's Mike. Long Island Paranormal. Y'all go check him out. I don't think you guys will be displeased with him. Like I said, he's not somebody with a whole lot of evidence. Well, he does get evidence, but he's more about data, which is smart because that's what a true paranormalist will do. That's what separates ghost hunters from investigators from paranormalists. And that is a paranormalist. That's someone who cares about why things do the way that they do. If they can debunk them first, which is the smartest thing to do. Guys, thank you guys for being with us. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight, Sean. Thank you. Thank you for hosting.
I'm gonna let you know here real quick, Shane. You did have a lot of viewers in tonight, so they were probably either driving around tonight, and you had a few that stopped in. Victor Santiago and Blaine Rohan stopped in tonight, said hello.
What's
But
up, Vic?
you did have a good flow of viewers coming in tonight and watching the show or listening to it. So
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your support. I'm glad to be here on Wicked Wednesdays, and I just want to make the best of what this is. I think we have an awesome crew, and let's just keep going, man. Let's keep building this thing up there, and let's make this the best, not only all access, but best Wednesday that anybody's ever seen. All right. You guys take care, stay safe, be blessed always, and stay spooky, people. Peace.
night out, everybody.